When a billionaire father watches a kind waitress reach the shy heart of his daughter, he discovers that some gifts money can't buy. The evening was quiet and soft as the sun began to set over the city, painting the skyline in gentle shades of orange and pink. Inside a luxurious restaurant high above the bustling streets, a father and his daughter walked through the grand entrance. The father, known to everyone as one of the wealthiest men in the country, carried himself with a sense of power and confidence. His suit was perfectly tailored, his shoes shined to perfection, and every movement he made seemed calculated to show the world he belonged at the top. But despite all his wealth and influence, there was something he could not control: his shy, quiet daughter who walked a few steps behind him, her eyes fixed on the floor. She was a girl of 16, small and delicate, with a soft voice that often went unheard in crowds. Social situations terrified her. Parties, school events, or even dinners at the family table were challenging for her. She felt invisible, awkward, and unsure of how to act around people who expected her to be confident. Her father had always hoped that wealth and status would give her the world, but he had not realized that what she needed most was patience, understanding, and someone who would listen to her without judgment. As they approached the hostess, the father spoke with a calm, commanding tone, giving instructions about the table he preferred. He expected everything to go smoothly because he was used to getting what he wanted. The daughter followed silently, clutching her small handbag tightly, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on her as they walked past. The restaurant was elegant, with chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds and soft music floating in the background. Guests chatted politely, servers moved gracefully from table to table, and the aroma of carefully prepared food filled the air. It was beautiful, but it also made her stomach twist with nervousness. The father guided them to a large table near the window, offering a stunning view of the city lights beginning to glow as night approached. He sat confidently in his chair, glancing at the menu for a moment, but more focused on observing his daughter. He wanted her to interact, to show some spark of life, some sign that she could fit into this world he had built. But she hesitated, her eyes dropping to the tablecloth, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her napkin. A waitress approached, moving with a gentle grace. She was not like the other servers who seemed to rush from one table to the next, barely acknowledging the people they served. This waitress had a warm smile, a soft voice, and eyes that seemed to notice everything, especially people who were feeling uneasy. When she looked at the daughter, she saw the nervous little movements, the hesitation in her steps, and the quiet way she avoided eye contact. Without saying much, the waitress began to speak in a kind and gentle tone, asking the daughter simple questions about her day and what she liked to eat at first. The daughter responded in quiet, almost one-word answers. She was not used to strangers showing interest in her thoughts and feelings, and the attention made her feel both nervous and a little relieved. The waitress continued to speak with patience, sharing small stories about her own life, nothing too personal, just little moments that made the daughter smile softly. Slowly, the girl began to relax. She lifted her eyes to look at the waitress, then quickly looked away, embarrassed at noticing how comfortable she felt with someone she barely knew. The father watched this from across the table, arms crossed and a furrowed brow on his face. He did not know how to feel. On one hand, he was glad his daughter was finally speaking, laughing even, for the first time in months. On the other hand, he felt a strange unease. Who was this waitress who could make his daughter open up so icily? Could anyone truly reach her like this? He had tried with gifts, lessons, and outings, but nothing had worked until now. He felt a flicker of curiosity and something else, a hint of admiration for the waitress's kindness and skill. The conversation between the daughter and the waitress continued, and soon the daughter began to share small details about herself. She talked about her favorite books, her love for drawing, and how sometimes school felt overwhelming. The waitress listened carefully, nodding and asking gentle questions that encouraged the girl to keep talking. It was simple, quiet conversation, but for the daughter, it felt like a world opening up, a space where she could be herself without fear of judgment. Meanwhile, the father started to notice small things he had overlooked before. The way the waitress moved gracefully around the table, how she anticipated what his daughter needed before she even asked, and how her presence seemed to calm the girl completely. The father realized that despite all his money, influence, and power, he could not create this moment. It was something pure, something human that could not be bought at one point. The daughter laughed at a light-hearted joke the waitress made, and the sound was so soft and delicate that it caught the father by surprise. He had not heard her laugh like that in a long time. For the first time, he felt a mix of pride and humility. He realized that his daughter needed more than wealth and status to feel happy and safe. She needed kindness, patience, someone who could reach her heart. The waitress noticed the father watching them. She did not seem intimidated by him. Instead, she treated him politely, but focused on the daughter, giving her the attention and care she needed. It was clear that the connection between the waitress and the daughter was genuine. The father felt something unfamiliar, an admiration not just for her skill as a server, but for her ability to touch his daughter's life in a way he had not been able to do himself. As the evening went on, daughter began to feel more confident. She asked questions about the food, shared opinions about the decorations, and even smiled without fear. The father could not help but feel a deep sense of wonder. Here was someone from an entirely different world, a waitress with no wealth or power who could do what he could not. Make his daughter feel seen and understood. When the meal ended, the daughter thanked the waitress quietly but sincerely. The father noticed the emotion in her eyes and felt a pang of something he could not name. Gratitude? Surprise? Perhaps even a little envy for the warmth and patience the waitress had shown. He realized that wealth alone could never replace genuine human connection, and in that moment, he began to understand something important about life, about kindness, and about his own daughter. As they left the restaurant, the daughter held her head a little higher, walking with a small confidence she had never shown before. The father walked beside her, thoughtful and introspective, still trying to make sense of the simple but profound impact a single kind stranger could have. The waitress watched them go, smiling softly, knowing she had made a difference in someone's life. And though the father did not fully understand it yet, he knew this night would stay with him forever, the night he saw his shy daughter come alive because of a waitress who simply cared. By the time they stepped into the limousine waiting outside, the city lights twinkling around them, the father had a quiet revelation. Money could buy many things, but it could not buy love, patience, or the power to heal a shy heart. That was something earned through kindness, attention, and genuine care. And for the first time in a long time, he felt grateful not for the wealth he had, but for the unexpected kindness he had witnessed and the subtle, beautiful change it had brought to his daughter. The next day, the billionaire father could not stop thinking about the previous evening. He replayed every detail in his mind, the way the waitress had gently coaxed his daughter into conversation, the soft laughter that had escaped her lips, and the way she had looked at his daughter with genuine warmth. It was a strange feeling for him. He was used to controlling everything: businesses, investments, even people's opinions, but here was a young woman with no wealth, no influence, who had done something he had never managed to do: make his daughter feel comfortable and seen. His daughter, on the other hand, woke up feeling lighter than she had in a long time. The kindness of the waitress lingered in her thoughts like a soft, comforting melody. She could still hear her voice, gentle and patient, asking simple questions that made her feel interesting and important. For the first time, she realized that someone outside her family could understand her without judgment. Someone who could listen and care without expecting anything in return. It was a small feeling, but it mattered more to her than any gift, lesson, or advice her father had ever given. When they met for breakfast, the father observed her quietly. He noticed subtle changes. She seemed more relaxed, her posture less guarded, and her voice a little stronger. He asked her how she had slept, and she answered with a small smile. For a moment he thought she might mention the waitress, but she hesitated. Finally she spoke, her voice soft but sincere, about the dinner and the way the waitress had made her feel calm. The father listened carefully, absorbing every word. He could see that it was not just a passing moment. It had affected her deeply. At work, he tried to focus on his usual routine, but his mind kept wandering back to the restaurant. He thought about the waitress's personality, her warmth, her attentiveness, and the natural way she connected with people. Unlike the employees in his office, she did not try to impress anyone with titles or money. She had something that could not be bought, a quiet strength and kindness that shone without effort. The more he thought about it, the more he realized he wanted to understand her better. Not in a personal way that crossed boundaries, but to know how someone like her could make such an impact. Meanwhile, the daughter's thoughts often drifted back to the waitress. She found herself imagining the small conversations they had, the way the waitress had listened without interrupting, and the stories she had shared. She felt a rare sense of trust towards someone outside her family, a feeling that was entirely new to her. The world seemed slightly less intimidating because she knew someone cared enough to make her feel comfortable. She started practicing small interactions in her head, imagining how she might speak more confidently in future situations. Inspired by the waitress's gentle guidance that evening, the father made a decision. He could not ignore the impact the waitress had on his daughter. He realized that the young woman's kindness was not just a temporary comfort. It was a lesson, a reminder of what people truly needed. He considered inviting her to meet them again, in a setting where they could interact without the pressure of the restaurant. But he hesitated. He did not want to seem controlling or imposing, and he also wondered if she would accept such an invitation knowing he was rich and powerful. The daughter, meanwhile, was quietly hoping for the same thing. She wanted to see the waitress again, to feel that sense of safety and understanding once more. She thought about asking her father, but she was unsure how he would react. She remembered the brief look of curiosity and even slight unease on his face at the restaurant, and it made her hesitate. But the feeling of wanting that connection was strong. She began to find courage she did not know she had. Realizing that sometimes it was okay to express what she truly felt, a few days later, the father arranged a small outing to a local park, a place where his daughter could enjoy herself without the formal pressure of the city or the restaurant. To her surprise, he mentioned that someone might join them, a person who had made a difference in her life. When the daughter heard this, her heart skipped a beat. She immediately guessed who it might be. Her father smiled faintly, noticing her reaction, and she could not contain her excitement. The possibility of seeing the waitress again filled her with a warmth she could hardly describe. When the waitress arrived at the park, she looked slightly nervous. She was from a world very different from the billionaires, but she had sensed that this meeting was important. She carried herself with the same calm, warm demeanor that had first drawn the daughter's attention. As soon as she saw the girl, she smiled, and the daughter ran forward with a mixture of shyness and excitement. The father observed quietly from a distance, noticing how naturally the two connected. It was as if a small bridge had been built between their worlds, a bridge made of trust, understanding, and kindness. During their time at the park, the daughter spoke more freely than ever before. She shared her thoughts about school, her dreams for the future, and even small fears she had never voiced aloud. The waitress listened patiently, responding with encouragement and gentle advice. She did not try to dominate the conversation or offer grand solutions. Instead, she simply made the daughter feel valued and heard. The father could see the glow of confidence spreading slowly across his daughter's face, and he felt a mixture of relief and awe. The father began to reflect on his own parenting style. He realized that he had relied too much on wealth and opportunities to shape his daughter's life. He had expected her to thrive simply because he provided everything she could ever need. But now he saw clearly that what mattered most was not what he could buy, but the human connections that made her feel safe, understood, and encouraged. The waitress had taught him an important lesson without even realizing it. As the afternoon progressed, the father noticed moments that touched him deeply. The waitress would gently encourage his daughter to try new activities, laugh with her at small jokes, and even give her small compliments that made the girl beam with pride. Every interaction was simple, yet powerful. The father could not help but admire her. He felt a strange, humbling recognition. True kindness and empathy were rare, and here was someone who had them in abundance. By the time the outing ended, the daughter's mood had transformed completely. She walked with a newfound confidence, chatting freely with the waitress and even joking lightly with her father. The father felt a sense of gratitude he had rarely experienced before, a mixture of relief, wonder, and admiration. For the first time, he realized that wealth alone could not shape a person's heart or mind. Genuine care, patience, and understanding could do what money never could. On the way home, the father and daughter rode in silence for a while. The daughter held her father's hand briefly, a rare gesture that showed her trust and connection. He thought about the waitress's role in this change. Recognizing how one person's kindness had created ripples in their lives, he felt inspired to support such qualities, to nurture empathy and understanding. Not just in his daughter, but perhaps in others around him as well. That night, the father made a quiet decision. He wanted to find a way to keep the waitress in their lives, not as a servant or employee, but as a guide and friend who could continue to inspire his daughter. He understood that bridging their different worlds would not be easy, but the impact she had already made was too valuable to ignore. The daughter, meanwhile, drifted to sleep with a smile, thinking about the warmth of the connection and the comfort she had felt. She dreamed of sharing more of herself, encouraged by someone who had seen her true self and embraced it without hesitation. The father, lying in his study, reflected on the simplicity and power of human kindness. He realized that the waitress had given his daughter something he could not: confidence, comfort, and the feeling of being truly understood. And he knew that this was just the beginning. Something meaningful was forming, a bond that could change the way he saw parenting, life, and relationships forever. The following days passed with a quiet excitement that neither the father nor the daughter could ignore. The memory of the waitress lingered in their minds, filling both of them with a mix of curiosity and anticipation. The daughter found herself thinking about the gentle way the waitress had listened to her, how she had made her laugh, and how simple gestures had made her feel seen for the first time in a long while. It was a feeling unlike any she had experienced before. She longed to feel it again. The father, meanwhile, noticed the subtle changes in his daughter every day. She seemed lighter, more willing to speak her mind, and her eyes held a spark he had rarely seen. At first, he felt a strange, almost uncomfortable admiration for the waitress. He had always believed that his wealth and influence could solve most problems. Yet here was someone from a completely different world, someone without riches or status, who had achieved what he could not. The thought intrigued him, and, in some ways, unsettled him. He was used to control, yet this was a situation where he had none. One afternoon, decided to visit the restaurant where they had first met the waitress. He wanted to see her again, not for himself, but for his daughter. As he entered the elegant space, he felt the familiar rush of attention that came with his presence. The staff bowed slightly, the host greeted him warmly, and whispers seemed to float through the air. Yet despite the grandeur, he was focused only on finding the young woman who had touched his daughter's life. When the waitress appeared, carrying a tray with careful precision, her eyes met his. There was a flicker of recognition and surprise, but she remained composed. Her expression was professional yet warm, and in that moment, he felt the weight of her presence. She was calm, confident, and entirely herself, a stark contrast to the high-pressure world he inhabited. The father realized that her charm did not come from training or ambition. It came from a place of genuine care, patience, and humanity. He introduced himself briefly, speaking carefully to ensure he did not seem overbearing. She responded politely, her voice soft but steady. They spoke for a few moments about the restaurant and her work. But the father's thoughts kept drifting back to the way she had comforted his daughter. He wanted to understand her approach, her mindset, and why she seemed so capable of making a shy girl feel at ease. Meanwhile, the daughter waited quietly at home, fidgeting nervously. She was unsure whether her father would truly invite the waitress to spend more time with them, or if it was just a passing thought. Her mind raced with possibilities, what they could do together. How the waitress might help her feel even more confident, and whether her father's curiosity might change the dynamic in any way. Despite her nervousness, she felt a quiet hope, the kind that comes from expecting something wonderful. The father returned home later that evening with a plan. He proposed to the daughter that they invite the waitress to join them for a casual outing, something simple, like a visit to a park or a small museum. He wanted it to be relaxed, free from any pressure of grandeur or formality. The daughter's eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly, barely able to contain her excitement. She imagined herself laughing and speaking freely, guided gently by someone who understood her. When the day arrived, the waitress hesitated slightly at the prospect of joining a billionaire and his family outside her workplace. She had never been involved in such a world. The thought of interacting with wealth and status in a personal setting was intimidating. Yet she remembered the daughter's shy smile, the quiet gratitude in her eyes, and the small way she had made a difference in someone's life. That memory gave her the courage to accept the invitation. The meeting began with a few moments of awkwardness. The daughter clung slightly to her father, unsure of how to act outside the restaurant setting. The waitress approached gently, her smile warm and reassuring. She did not overwhelm the girl with questions or advice. Instead, she simply spoke in a calm, friendly tone that invited conversation without forcing it. Slowly, the daughter relaxed, letting her guard down as she listened and responded. The father watched, fascinated by the way the connection between them unfolded naturally, without effort or show. During their outing, the daughter began to open up in ways she had never done before. She spoke about school, her favorite hobbies, and even the small anxieties that had weighed on her for months. The waitress listened patiently, nodding and offering gentle encouragement. She asked thoughtful questions that invited the girl to reflect and share, rather than pushing her to perform or impress. Each exchange, though small, built trust and confidence, creating a safe space for the daughter to explore her feelings. The father noticed the subtle shifts in his daughter's demeanor. She laughed freely, her eyes sparkled with excitement, and she even made small jokes that brought smiles to both of the women. He realized that the waitress had a rare gift, the ability to reach someone's heart without demanding anything in return. Watching this unfold, he felt a mixture of relief and admiration. The lessons he had tried to teach his daughter with money and status now seemed less important compared to what genuine kindness and patience could achieve at one point. The daughter paused to draw something in her notebook, a small sketch inspired by the outing. The waitress knelt beside her, offering gentle praise for the detail and creativity in her work. The daughter beamed with pride, feeling truly seen for the first time in a long while. The father, observing silently, felt a pang of humility. He realized that despite all his resources, he could not give his daughter this sense of affirmation. It had come from someone entirely unexpected, a waitress who cared deeply and sincerely. As the afternoon went on, the father began to reflect on his own life. He considered how often he had relied on wealth and authority to influence others, believing that control could replace understanding. Watching the interaction between the daughter and the waitress, he recognized the limitations of his approach. Influence and power were fleeting. Kindness and empathy had the power to change hearts and minds in ways he had never imagined. The daughter, encouraged by the waitress's gentle guidance, started to voice her own opinions more clearly. She suggested activities, asked questions, and even shared dreams she had kept hidden. The waitress listened attentively, never interrupting or judging, but always encouraging. Each interaction seemed to strengthen the daughter's self-confidence, building a foundation that the father had long wished to see. As the outing drew to a close, the daughter felt a sense of sadness that it was ending. She had come to rely on the warmth and support of the waitress, feeling a rare trust that made her feel safe and understood. The father noticed the small, reluctant gestures of farewell, realizing that his daughter had formed a bond that transcended their social and economic differences. It was a connection built on care, patience, and genuine interest. Later that evening, back at home, the father reflected on the day's events. He realized that the waitress had done something remarkable. She had not only brought comfort to his daughter, but had also subtly changed him. He saw the limitations of his own approach to life and parenting and recognized the value of humility, empathy, and connection. He felt grateful and inspired, wanting to find ways to ensure that this relationship could continue to grow. The daughter, meanwhile, lay in her room thinking about everything that had happened. She felt a quiet happiness, a sense of possibility that had been missing for so long. For the first time, she imagined herself navigating social situations with confidence, supported by someone who understood her and cared. The memory of the waitress's gentle encouragement gave her courage, She found herself smiling at the thought of future meetings. That night, the father made a quiet decision. He wanted to support this connection, not out of obligation or social expectation, but because he recognized its profound importance. The waitress had brought something invaluable into their lives: confidence and understanding. He began to think about how he could create opportunities for them to spend more time together, in ways that felt natural and unforced. He also reflected on the lessons he had learned. Wealth and power could open doors, but they could not teach patience, understanding, or empathy. Those qualities were cultivated through genuine human connection, often in small, quiet moments. Watching the waitress with his daughter had been a revelation, showing him that true influence came from caring and listening. Not commanding or controlling. As he turned off the lights in his study and walked to his room, he felt a sense of hope. This was more than a simple outing. It was the beginning of something meaningful, a relationship that could shape his daughter's life in profound ways. He knew that nurturing this bond would require care, respect, and understanding from him as well. For the first time, he felt ready to step back and let someone else guide and support his daughter, trusting that kindness could achieve what power never could. The following weekend, the father arranged another meeting with the waitress, but this time it was different. He wanted it to be more private, somewhere his daughter could feel comfortable without the formality of a restaurant or the eyes of strangers. He chose a small art studio on the outskirts of the city, a place where his daughter could explore her creativity freely. The father knew that the waitress had never been part of his world, and he wanted the meeting to be casual, natural, and welcoming, without any hint of intimidation. When they arrived, the daughter's eyes lit up at the sight of colorful paints, canvases, and sketches lining the walls. She felt a rush of excitement she had not experienced before. The father watched her quietly, noticing the way she moved with curiosity and awe. He saw that her shyness was melting away, replaced by a quiet confidence that came from feeling safe and understood. The waitress entered soon after, her smile gentle and reassuring. She looked around the studio with interest, but focused quickly on the daughter, ready to guide and encourage her without overwhelming her. At first, the daughter hesitated. She had never painted in front of someone else, especially not in a new environment. Her hands trembled slightly as she held a brush, unsure of where to begin. The waitress knelt beside her and spoke softly, asking her what she liked to draw and what colors made her feel happy. She did not rush her, did not critique her work, but simply offered gentle encouragement. This small act of patience was enough to ease the daughter's nerves. Slowly she began to paint. The father watched from a short distance, noticing the subtle changes in both the daughter and the waitress. The daughter's posture straightened, her strokes became more confident, and she even laughed softly when she accidentally splashed some paint. The waitress smiled and made a small, light-hearted joke, and the daughter giggled again, feeling more relaxed than she had in years. The father felt a strange mixture of pride, relief, and admiration. He realized that this simple interaction, just a girl painting with the encouragement of someone kind, was more meaningful than any expensive lesson or lavish gift he could provide. As the afternoon continued, the daughter shared her thoughts and dreams with the waitress. She spoke about her love for art, her desire to be more confident in school, and her wish to make friends who truly understood her. The waitress listened attentively, never interrupting or dismissing her feelings. She asked thoughtful questions, helping the daughter explore her thoughts more deeply and encouraging her to see her own value. The father, observing silently, felt a sense of awe. He could see the genuine connection forming, something that transcended social class, wealth, and status. At one point, the father joined them briefly, offering a few words of encouragement to his daughter. He realized how different it felt to be part of this moment compared to his usual controlling approach. Here, he could not buy or command happiness. He could only witness it, support it, and trust that the interaction between the waitress and his daughter would have a lasting effect. The daughter noticed her father watching and smiled softly, feeling proud of herself for sharing this part of her life with him. It was a small but significant step toward building trust and understanding between them. The waitress suggested a small challenge. The daughter could try painting a scene from her imagination, using any colors or shapes she liked. At first, the daughter hesitated, worried it would not look perfect. The waitress gently reminded her that there was no right or wrong in art, only expression. She encouraged the daughter to trust herself, to let her creativity flow. Slowly, the daughter's brush moved more freely, creating shapes and colors she had never dared to try before. The father watched, struck by the transformation. His daughter was blossoming in front of his eyes, guided by someone whose only tools were patience, understanding, and kindness. As they continued, the daughter began to speak more openly about her fears. She admitted that she often felt invisible among her classmates and worried that she was not good enough. The waitress listened carefully, validating her feelings and offering gentle advice on how to face challenges with confidence. She shared her own experiences of feeling uncertain or overlooked, showing the daughter that it was possible to overcome fear without changing who she was. The father felt a lump in his throat. He had always tried to shield his daughter from disappointment and failure, but he now understood that learning to face challenges with courage was far more valuable than protecting her with wealth. The father noticed how naturally the waitress encouraged the daughter to explore her own strengths. She never imposed her opinions or dominated the conversation. Instead, she offered guidance when needed and stepped back when the daughter needed space. The father realized that this was a skill he had rarely used in parenting: listening, observing, and letting someone grow at their own pace. Watching the dynamic between the two women, he felt a quiet admiration for the waitress and a new understanding of how to support his daughter without controlling her. After hours of painting, the daughter held up her work with pride. It was vibrant, colorful, and full of imagination. She beamed at the waitress, who nodded approvingly, praising her creativity and courage. The father approached, offering heartfelt compliments as well, realizing that this was a moment he could never have orchestrated on his own. The bond between the daughter and the waitress had created a space where growth, confidence, and joy could flourish naturally. As the afternoon ended, the father suggested a small picnic in the garden outside the studio. They spread out a blanket, shared snacks, and talked quietly. The conversation flowed easily, with the daughter laughing, asking questions, and even teasing the waitress gently. The father felt a mixture of happiness and humility. He had always believed that his wealth and position could give his daughter the world. But here, in a simple garden, he realized that real happiness came from connection, understanding, and shared experiences. During the picnic, the father quietly observed the waitress interacting with his daughter. He noticed her attention to small details, the way she encouraged the daughter to drink water, reminded her to rest, and offered compliments that made the girl glow. These were simple actions, but they had a profound effect. The daughter felt valued, supported, and understood. The father realized that wealth could not replicate these gestures. They came from a place of genuine care and empathy. The daughter, feeling safe and supported, shared more personal thoughts with the waitress. She spoke about her dreams of traveling, meeting new people, and trying new things. The waitress encouraged her to pursue these dreams, offering practical advice while always remaining supportive. The daughter felt inspired, realizing that someone believed in her not because of her father's wealth, but because of who she was. This realization gave her courage, confidence, and a sense of hope she had never known. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft oranges and purples, the father reflected on everything he had witnessed that day. He realized that the bond between his daughter and the waitress was more than friendship. It was mentorship, it's guidance, and emotional support. He felt grateful, humbled, and inspired to let the relationship grow naturally, understanding that true influence came from care, patience, and understanding, not from authority or wealth. The daughter hugged the waitress before leaving, her face glowing with happiness. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the support, encouragement, and friendship she had received. The father watched quietly, realizing that this moment was a turning point. He understood that his daughter had found someone who could guide her, inspire her, and help her grow in ways he had never been able to. As they drove home, father remained thoughtful. He knew that wealth could open doors, but it could not teach empathy, patience, or understanding. The waitress had brought something invaluable into their lives, and he wanted to ensure that connection remained strong. He began to plan ways to support the bond, not through money or status, but through respect, trust, and genuine care. The daughter, smiling quietly, replayed the day in her mind. She felt stronger, more confident, and more understood than ever before. She realized that she could share her thoughts, dreams, and fears without judgment. The waitress had shown her that someone could see her true self and value her for it, and that realization gave her courage to face the world differently. That night, the father reflected on a simple truth. Genuine kindness could shape lives more than wealth, power, or authority ever could. The waitress had done what he could not. She had connected with his daughter's heart, bringing joy, confidence, and hope. He understood now that true parenting sometimes meant stepping back, trusting others, and letting kindness and patience do the work money never could. The following week, the father decided it was time to take the next step. He wanted to ensure that the bond between his daughter and the waitress did not fade. And he also wanted to recognize the impact the young woman had made on their lives. He arranged a small gathering at their home, a casual, low-pressure environment where his daughter could interact freely and the waitress could feel comfortable. He carefully avoided making it formal or intimidating, understanding that the genuine connection they had built needed space, warmth, and simplicity to grow. When the waitress arrived, she looked around with a mixture of curiosity and slight nervousness. The world she was stepping into was very different from her own, filled with grandeur and wealth she had never known. Yet her focus remained on the daughter. The girl ran to greet her with a bright smile, and the waitress returned it warmly. The father watched quietly, observing how natural and effortless their connection remained, despite the difference in their worlds. He was struck again by the quiet power of kindness, patience, and attention. Throughout the afternoon, the daughter shared stories of her daily life, her little successes, and even her ongoing worries. The waitress listened with genuine interest, offering encouragement without judgment. She shared small pieces of her own experiences, moments of struggle and learning that allowed the daughter to feel understood and supported. The father noticed how relaxed and joyful his daughter had become, a stark contrast to the timid, shy girl he had worried about weeks ago. It was clear that the influence of the waitress had created lasting change. At one point, the father quietly joined the conversation, asking questions that showed he was paying attention to the relationship developing before him. He noticed how icily the daughter shared her thoughts with the waitress, and how naturally the waitress encouraged her without taking control. It was a delicate balance, and he felt admiration for her ability to guide, comfort, and inspire without overstepping. He realized that true mentorship did not come from authority or wealth, but from empathy, understanding, and genuine care. As the afternoon unfolded, the father decided to do something he had never done before. He offered the waitress an opportunity that could change her life. He explained that he had been deeply impressed by her character, patience, and kindness, and that he wanted to support her dreams, whatever they might be. He did not want to impose his will or make her feel obligated, but he wanted to offer a choice, a scholarship for further education, a chance to grow her skills, or even a role in his philanthropic projects where her compassion could help others. The waitress was surprised. She had never expected that kindness could lead to such an offer. At first she hesitated, unsure whether accepting would feel right or whether it would create an imbalance. But she remembered the daughter's shy smile, the laughter they had shared, and the quiet transformation she had witnessed. Slowly, she realized that accepting this opportunity could allow her to grow, help more people, and continue making a positive impact. After a thoughtful pause, she accepted, grateful and humbled by the trust and generosity she had been offered. The daughter, overjoyed by the decision, hugged the waitress tightly. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and happiness. For the first time, she truly believed that someone could care about her feelings, understand her struggles, and support her growth without expecting anything in return. She realized that she had not only gained a mentor, but also a friend, a person who saw her for who she was and valued her genuinely. The father watched this embrace with a full heart, understanding that the connection they had witnessed was life-changing for both his daughter and the waitress. As the days passed after the gathering, the daughter began to flourish even more. She participated actively at school, spoke confidently in group settings, and explored her interests with a newfound enthusiasm. The father noticed the glow in her eyes, the ease in her conversations, and the way she carried herself with pride and confidence. He realized that the transformation had not come from him or his wealth, but from the genuine kindness and guidance the waitress had offered. The father also reflected deeply on his own role. He had learned that being a parent was not about providing everything money could buy or controlling every aspect of a child's life. It was about understanding, patience, and recognizing when someone else could offer what he could not. He felt grateful to the waitress for teaching him this lesson through her actions and her heart. Her presence had not only changed his daughter's life, but it also inspired him to be a better parent, more compassionate and more understanding. The waitress, now, with new opportunities and confidence, continued to build a strong bond with the daughter. She encouraged her to explore new interests, face challenges, and believe in her own potential. She never imposed her views, but instead provided guidance, reassurance, and support, allowing the daughter to grow naturally. Their friendship became a source of joy, inspiration, and confidence for both of them, strengthening over time as they spent more moments together. One evening, the father and daughter sat together in their living room. Reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point, the daughter spoke with excitement about the lessons she had learned, the new skills she was developing, and the hope she now carried for her future. She expressed gratitude for the waitress's guidance and support, recognizing how much it had changed her confidence and outlook on life. The father listened quietly, feeling a deep sense of pride and understanding that went beyond words. He realized that the most valuable gifts in life were not material possessions, titles, or wealth. They were connections, understanding, empathy, and genuine care. The waitress had given his daughter something priceless: confidence, self-belief, and the understanding that she could be herself and still be valued. He felt a profound sense of gratitude for her. Recognizing that her influence had touched not only his daughter, but also himself, teaching him lessons about humility, kindness, and the real meaning of influence. The father then made another quiet decision. He wanted to continue supporting the waitress in her journey, ensuring that she could grow and help others as she had helped his daughter. He offered mentorship, resources, and opportunities for her to pursue her dreams, respecting her choices and independence. He understood that wealth could open doors, but it was character, empathy, and persistence that created lasting impact. Over time, the bond between the daughter and the waitress strengthened. They spent more days together painting, exploring new places, and sharing personal thoughts. The daughter became more outgoing, curious, and self-assured. The waitress, in turn, flourished under the opportunities provided by the father's support, using her natural kindness and patience to mentor others and make a positive impact in her community. The father watched all of this with quiet admiration. He understood that his role was no longer to control or direct, but to support, guide, and trust the process of growth and connection. He had learned that influence without empathy was meaningless, and that genuine care could create transformations money never could. He felt proud of both his daughter and the waitress, knowing that their lives had intertwined in a way that would leave a lasting mark on all of them. One evening, as the daughter and the waitress walked together through a small garden near the father's home, the daughter expressed her gratitude in her own words. She spoke about the confidence she had gained, the joy she felt in expressing herself, and the hope she now carried for her future. The waitress smiled softly, proud of the progress she had helped nurture, and reminded the daughter that her strength had always been within her. It just needed the right support to shine. The father observed from a distance, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He understood that the true value of his wealth was not in possessions or power, but in the ability to support meaningful connections, nurture growth, and create opportunities for genuine kindness to flourish. The lives of his daughter and the waitress had been changed forever, and he felt honored to have witnessed it. By the end of that week, the daughter had grown in confidence. Her laughter was freer and her presence more vibrant. The waitress had found new opportunities, respect, and recognition. Yet she remained humble and kind, the same person who had first touched the daughter's life with simple patience and understanding. The father realized that this journey had been a profound lesson in humility, kindness, and the true meaning of influence. The story concluded with a quiet, heartwarming understanding among them. Wealth and power could create comfort, but love, patience, empathy, and genuine human connection could change lives. The daughter had blossomed under the guidance of someone who cared without judgment. The waitress had been given the chance to grow and help others, and the father had learned the importance of stepping back, trusting and valuing the unseen power of kindness. Their lives were forever intertwined, shaped by the simple but profound truth that real change comes not from what money can buy, but from the heart. From that day on, the daughter walked taller, spoke more confidently, and faced the world with hope. The waitress continued to inspire and mentor those around her, and the father understood that he had witnessed something extraordinary, a lesson that no wealth could replicate, a bond that no power could buy, and a story of transformation rooted in kindness, patience, and human connection.